Any Disney Plus fans out there, particularly for its Star Wars content? Between my brother and I think we've covered everything before Obi-Wan Kenobi on the platform. Personally, Kenobi was my favorite and made the biggest impression, because I've been adoring Anakin and his bromance with Kenobi since I was a baby. Revenge of the Sith was how I learned complex emotions, like manipulation and the ambiguous nature of good and evil. I was 5 at the time, by the way. And I'm glad Disney's carrying on the legacy, even if they're dragging certain aspects of that amazing universe through the mud. I suppose times have changed, it's a new era, and the Star Wars of old is a bygone memory. There are new possibilities now and new stories to be told, and regardless of what anyone else says, I'm here for it. Alongside the stories surrounding the beloved Skywalker saga, Disney has started to shift its focus to a time called the High Republic, and its first live-action series is going to come out sometime in 2024. Its name? The Acolyte. How badass does that sound? It'll be about a former Padawan who reunites with her Jedi Master to investigate a series of crimes which end up being more sinister than expected. There's no question of dark side involvement. It's obvious. I sincerely hope they pursue a darker tone with the story, but it made me think of the expanse of time the High Republic covers, and the kind of stories I want to see on the screen. So today, I'll be talking about something I've been reading from my personal list, and just so you know, there will be spoilers. The book in question is Into the Dark by Claudia Gray. A line in the book says, "Not everyone who hears the call to adventure wants to answer it." I cannot tell you guys enough how much I resonate with this. It instantly got my attention. For one, I'm an introvert, so I prefer to hang back and watch things unfold rather than jump into the action. And I'm not saying it doesn't interest me. Of course it does, but from a distance. And two, I love ancient history. Everything about worlds of the past fascinate me. They sound like fantasy realms where magic is rife and the rules of reality are different. I love it. These are the two qualities I have in common with our protagonist, Reath Silas, a Jedi Padawan who prefers to stay in the archives at the temple on Coruscant and research stories of the past rather than live out the stories that may be written in the future. I'm not lying when I say this book deserves a live-action series. It's got lovable characters, a mysterious premise, admirable master-apprentice bonds, interesting adversaries, intriguing settings, lightsabers, and actionable Jedi powers. If something like this was on Disney Plus, I would be invested. This seems like a good time to take a coffee break. When we come back, we'll talk more about Reath Silas and how he gets thrust into an adventure not of his own choosing. His strength in the Force isn't remarkable, but Reath works harder than almost any Padawan I've ever known. He tuned into my thoughts not through his natural gifts, but through effort of will, and he did it faster than the naturally gifted ever manage. He'll go farther than many of them, perhaps in ways he doesn't yet understand. This is how Reath's master, Jorah Malley, describes him the first time. He isn't someone who looks for adventure, but he's even more capable than the adventurous. This is a really cool personality dynamic. Personally, I find capable characters to be more likable than incapable ones, probably because I relate that with confidence and it's something I like, whether it's confidence in what you can do or what you choose not to. But obviously, Reath is just a teenager who's still trying to figure out a lot of things. like how to stay as far as possible from danger. And that's what makes it so interesting, the clash between not wanting to and having to. At the beginning of the book, Master Jorah tells Reath that she has volunteered to serve at Starlight Beacon, a new outpost of the Republic on the edge of known space, a place rife with danger and where practice will trump theory. Obviously, he's hesitant, but he's told that is the way things will be and is left to sort out his feelings. I'm sure we can all relate to a memory of not wanting to go somewhere or not wanting to do something. Maybe sitting your exams or attending that interview. But ultimately knowing you have to and making peace with that. It's a part of growing. Obviously, a lesson Master Jorah feels is essential for Reath. So the poor guy gets on with it. His master arranges to go ahead of him to settle things at the station before his arrival. He's to make his way after with a Jedi Knight, a Wayseeker, and a Jedi Master. They're transported by a crew of 3 on a small ship of questionable integrity called the Vessel. This forms the main cast of our story. Everyone is different enough to interact with Reath in interesting ways, and every time he does so, there is a growth in his character of some sort. So, who are these people? Let's take a look. There's Jedi Knight Des Ryden, the complete opposite of Reath and Master Jorah's previous Padawan. He's a thrill seeker and loves to throw himself into danger without a second thought. Ola Jareni is a Wayseeker, a Jedi who operates outside the dictates of the Council. Master Comac Vitus is a renowned Jedi scholar, mystic, and folklorist. He's like the older version of Reath. Then there is the ship's crew. Afi Hollow is the feisty teenage co-pilot, guided by Leox Gyasi, a laid-back, all-loving captain who's probably on spice. The trusty navigator who they swear by is Geode, a very large, and a very solid, chunk of rock the size of a man. He never speaks, but his crew seems to hear him somehow. The trio belong to the Bin Guild, a company that handles shipping and transport. Everything begins according to plan, but not long into their adventure, they come across a galactic-scale problem. Hyperspace is broken. Debris is littering almost every route in sight. If they get hit by so much as a splinter of metal, they're looking at explosive ejection from hyperspace and a hull breach. A space traveler's nightmare. It means being blown out in the cold void of space and dying in 2 or 3 minutes. Less if you have breath in your lungs, which can expand and burst in seconds. How about we exhale our tension and take a snack break? When we come back, we'll talk about how Reath and his party end up at the abandoned station where the meat of our story takes place. All hyperspace lanes should be considered closed until further notice. For travelers beyond the boundaries of the Republic through to the Outer Rim, we reiterate that hyperspace is currently unnavigable and extremely hazardous. All traffic is advised that hyperspace travel should be avoided at all costs. This is the transmission the vessel receives when they pull out of hyperspace. Think of being stranded in the middle of nowhere, and that being there is safer than where you were before. Isn't it terrifying? Then you get a distress call from the darkness. Someone out there needs help, but they could be anyone, perhaps even with dark intentions. This whole situation throws Ola and Master Comac into a flashback. When they were Padawans, they served together on a mission that changed their lives and left them with haunting memories. Their memories play out throughout the book alongside Reath's own adventures following the hyperspace disaster. It sets the tone for their bond and gives the party a backbone. They've been through a shared experience in the past, and the rawness of that youth has stuck with them. Reath and the others look up to Orla and Master Comac, but as the tables turn, the older Jedi can't help but approach the unknown with caution, wisdom, and fear. I have to take a moment to mention Claudia Gray's writing because I really enjoyed it. In universes like Star Wars, where there are so many characters involved, it can become a little expansive and confusing. But Gray knows how to curate a selection of characters and weave their stories with clarity. I could easily bond with each new character introduced because the writing didn't overcomplicate the scenes. The distress call mentioned earlier belongs to a little girl and her elder guardian in a severely run-down ship, Nan and Haig. We can tell from the get-go that something is wrong with them, but we don't know for sure until a lot later in the book. Reath and the others don't have time to contemplate because they quickly realize the vessel is stranded in a precarious part of space where erratic solar flares could destroy any unshielded thing in its path. Thankfully, there's an abandoned station nearby. It looks ancient and built to withstand the sun's outbursts. The vessel sends out a transmission warning nearby ships of the danger and organizes their docking at the station. Things get off to a tense start. The people trapped form a group comprised of pirates and competing mercenaries. They are determined to strip the station down of anything valuable. Clashes between the various crews are inevitable. Reath and his small party are left with the burden of keeping the larger groups in check while also exploring the station. Now this is where things get exciting for me. Exploring the station. Because who doesn't want to know more about the origins of an ancient base? I'm gonna be completely honest, battles don't make my heart race as much as exploration does. I love learning about new things and am always intrigued by matters of the past, even in fictional worlds. Are you guys the same? And it's even better when there's a touch of something sinister mixed in with the mysterious. I think now's a good time to take a dessert break and pack in some sweetness before things get sour. When we come back, we'll talk about the visions the Jedi have and the statues they find aboard the station. It's muggy in here, almost steamy. Gotta give the biome credit. The best-seated arboretums rarely last anything close to this long. This one not only survived, it's got humidity. This is Orla's first impression of the station's main chamber, where the Jedi discover 4 gold and bejeweled statues. It's a brilliant piece of history steeped in darkness. Not long after approaching the statues, Orla and Master Comac succumb to frightening visions of the dark side. It confuses them, and they are convinced the statues must be removed and taken back to the Jedi Temple. This chamber and what they find here are the point from which their adventures stem. It occupies a lush green corner of my mind, where questions are asked, battles are had, and answers are given. The central location of the biome also helps to segment the stories of other characters which occur around it. We have the hangar bay, where the ships are docked, the upper levels, which serves as a storage, and the secretive lower levels riddled with dangerous traps. While the older Jedi work with the statues, the other party members split up to pursue their various interests on the station. Affy, the teenage co-pilot, discovers evidence of the bin guild using indentured workers in near-slavery conditions. The abandoned station was in their ship's nav computer for a reason, and the smuggler's codes she finds there prove it. A missing piece of her history resurfaces in these codes. Her parents died in this station, taking risks they should not have had to. Her adoptive mother and leader of the bin guild, Skova, has been hiding this from her. Meanwhile, Reath, Des, and Nan scout the depths of the station. There are sections inaccessible to them, and this makes the resonant dark side even more mysterious. I absolutely love the setting in this book. It reminds me a lot of older Star Wars games like Knights of the Old Republic. The wonderful combination of being on the run, trying to discover things, and having to deal with problems that occur on the way. I haven't even delved that deep into other aspects of the book, but don't you think you're curious from what you've heard so far? Mind you, I've only covered 30% of this book. Actually, what's your cup of tea when it comes to space operas or space adventures? I've even read some horror titles that take creepy to whole new levels. Kinda makes you romanticize the Sith a lot less, I'm talking about in the Star Wars universe. And I say that as someone who chooses to follow the dark side. At this point, if I want to cover the rest of the book, I'm gonna have to summarize the entire story. And I don't think that's gonna do the book justice. So instead I'll focus on one last thing that I thought was a neat touch and interesting aspect of the abandoned station. The 8Ts. These are ancient gardener droids that have been programmed to nurture the plants in the Arboretum and across the entire station. They take their job of protecting the plants seriously, which means even though they're usually peaceful and indifferent to other life forms, they become single-minded and aggressive if anyone's activities disturb the flora. Now, think about this in the context of removing evil statues covered in vines or breaking through plant matter to access parts of the station. I thought this was such an unexpected problem, and it was actually really cool to see the solutions our characters came up with to deal with it. What would you do? Myself? No clue. So, if this was a Disney Plus show, I'd totally watch to find out. I think this is a good place to wrap up our discussion, but there's something I'm really curious about. Just like I feel this book deserves a live-action series, I'm sure there are books out there you guys feel the same about. So, what are the titles you think Disney Plus or any other streaming platform needs to get behind? Let me know in the comments, and I'll see you guys next time on Book Club and Chill.